Our message to Denmark is very simple. You have not done a good job by the people of Greenland.
That was Vice President Vance speaking in Greenland on Friday. Yesterday, President Trump told NBC, we'll get Greenland. Yeah, 100%. Greenland is, of course, a territory of the Kingdom of Denmark. So how do the Danes take Vance and Trump's rhetoric? Joining me now is the former Danish Prime Minister, Helle Thorning Schmidt. Helle, thank you so much for joining. I want to first ask you, just as a Dane, as the former Prime Minister, how do you react to this kind of rhetoric coming out of the United States of America?
Yeah, first of all, great to be with you here today, Fareed. I must say that we are taken aback by the language used by the Vice President on Friday. First of all, this whole talk about Denmark not being a good ally, that is simply not true. And it is a little bit insulting, to be honest, that we have stood side by side with America for decades. We have deployed with America. We have veterans that have been under U.S. command. And I was also thinking of them when the Vice President said that we had not contributed, because we have been with America in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya. We were even ready to go into Syria to react to the red lines. So we have been very close to the United States and feel that we have been a very good friend to the United States. We're not a big country, but we have been a very close ally and will continue to be so. So we were quite shocked by those terms and how they spoke about Denmark. But of course, the most important in this whole issue is what the Vice President and what the President has said about Greenland.
And about Greenland, do you understand what the goal here is? Because the United States at one point, I think, had 16 or 17 bases in Greenland during World War II. It then chose to reduce it to one base. Have they communicated what it is they want?
No, and I think that's the problem. There is a treaty from 1951 where it is very clear that the Americans have huge access to Greenland. After the war, they had, as you said, 16 bases up there. Now they have one, the Pitufik base. I've been there. It's a base very north in Greenland, and that was where the Vice President was on Friday. I think there is around 200 military personnel up there. So this is a place where the Americans have basically scaled back over the years. So the Americans have also taken a peace dividend in Greenland. But I do think it's fair to start discussing, should that end now? Are we in such a new situation? So we all have to scale up in Greenland. Denmark has just decided to invest massively in Greenland's security. And the irony of all this is that the Americans could do exactly the same. Greenland is NATO territory. There's nothing stopping the Americans from getting more engaged militarily in Greenland, having more bases if that's what they want. And I do think that both the Greenlandic people and, of course, the people in Denmark would support such a move. So the irony is there is very little that the Americans can't have in Greenland right now without talking about taking over Greenland and all these other things.
You were Prime Minister in the Obama years, and I wondered, what is your reaction to watching the Trump administration's policy on Ukraine turn from what I think one would generally have called very vigorously pro-Ukraine and anti-Russian, anti-the Russian aggression, to what, does seem much more pro-Russian and anti-Ukrainian?
There has been a very huge change in how the Americans are talking about Ukraine, and that's why it's so important for all of us Europeans, a former Prime Minister, but all of us to really state the facts. There was an all-out Russian invasion in Ukraine. The territorial integrity of Ukraine was not respected by Russia. It is very difficult to make agreements with Russia that they actually stick to. So we hope that the Americans come back to believing in that. Of course, we are all for peace in Ukraine, but we can't have peace on any basis. It had to be a solid basis where we also respect the territorial integrity of a sovereign country. This is what the Americans have always believed in. I still believe in America. I'm very close to the US. I go there all the time. So I really hope we can come back to just communicating with each other. In terms of Greenland, for example, I'm not saying that Denmark has done everything right in terms of Greenland, but let's sit down and talk about this. And again, I want to say to the American people as well, there's very little the Americans can't achieve in Greenland if they want to in terms of security, but also economically. I'm sure the Greenlandic people would cherish working with Americans in Greenland, also on economic issues. So please sit down at the negotiation table. Let's find out what the Americans really want in the States, and let's not use this rhetoric of wanting to own Greenland. Greenland belongs to the Inuit people, to the Greenlandic people, and it also is part of the Kingdom of Denmark.
Thank you so much, Helle. Always a pleasure to hear from you.